Hi. Thank you for again dropping by room 503. Today in Straight Talk in room 503, we're going to be talking about the tsunami that is hitting public education. And we're so glad that you're tuning in again this time. But let's talk about the tsunami that is hurting public education. Where are our children going to be when the tsunami hit? It's on the coast right now. It's beginning to hit public education. And it's just a matter of days where we're going to have a great deal of problems on our hand. Let's talk about this session. My question to you is, what are you doing? What are you doing to make sure that our kids are not involved in hurting this tsunami that is coming? Have you talked with your leadership? Are we going to allow public education to continue to fail? Or are we going to do something about this tsunami that's coming? Join me as we talk about this week, the tsunami that is hitting public education. We can allow our public education system to continue to erode. We can stop the tsunami. Otherwise, we'll find ourselves in places just like this without children. The tsunami is hitting our public education system. Well, I can hear it. The waves are rolling in. The sand is eroding. Our kids are in high school, graduating, barely able to read on the 4th and 5th grade level. Well, they're unable to do simple math. We got to do something, and we're going to talk further about it. Ladies and gentlemen, I am there every day. After writing my book, I decided to sub. I have spent the last 10 years of my life doing something like what I'm doing today, and that is trying my best to improve public education. In order to do that, I needed to bring you the facts. I need to have evidence of what I'm talking about. So I spent the last 10 years subbing in my hometown, in the middle schools, in the high schools. I even been to private schools. So I know what's going on. And let me mention this to you. You probably are unaware of really what's going on just beneath you. There has been a private school that has been established inside our public school, in our middle schools. And ladies and gentlemen, guess who are paying the tab? Well, you are paying for other students to have better education because they are attending those schools. There are even a couple of PhDs in the system teaching our kids right here in my hometown. And it's nothing but a public school having a private school. Then we have a high school that we call it by another name, but it's nothing but a private school inside a public school paid for by taxpayer dollars. You have to have a lottery system in order to get into the system. Another thing, the teacher has to recommend those students who go into those private schools. Do you think that they're recommending those students who are misbehaving, unable to read, unable to write, unable to complete a sentence? I don't think so. So now what are we going to do about it? Are we going to continue to sit here and allow public education to erode while private schools continue to draw our best students? We still got some of our best students in our public school. We should keep them there, and others should want to return because public school has a new vision, a new way of teaching our students. While we're doing the same thing and teaching the same way that they did when I was attending school. The books are torn up. They don't have the right equipment. While the private schools and our public schools that have allowed a private school to be inside them, they have brand new laptops. And what are we going to do? Are we going to sit aside and allow our public schools to continue to let the tsunami continue to erode our public school system? I don't think so. Let's talk about this further. Let's talk about the difference in the terminology that I want to make sure you're crystal clear. When you hear me talk about private schools inside a public school, exactly what do I mean? Let's talk about creation. Private school came out of the concept that we need to do something different. Our kids are being held back because we have kids that are not working up to the level that they should, and there was thought that they was holding certain children back. So then the powers to be, I wasn't at that meeting, but I believe that there was a meeting of our leadership, the powers to be in this community. They got together with superintendents and decided, we want to cut a deal with you. We're unable to pay the $25,000 and $30,000 to put our children in private schools. Let me further explain. Let's assume that you have 3 children that you want to place into private school. At $25,000 or $30,000 a child, well, that would be $90,000. Unless you making over the excess of $200,000, you'll be unable to afford that. So why not get with the superintendent and say something to this effect? Why don't we create a school? We don't want to call it private, but in actual reality, it's a private school where we can pick and choose our teachers, pick and choose our students. Well, in that private school, that way our children does not have to attend school with those children. I'll let you decide on that terminology of those children. I think you're smart enough to figure that one out. So therefore, when the decision was made, let's create a school at a high school, and we'll call it Madison Academic. That'll throw them off. And we'll have a lottery. What do you mean by a lottery? That means that we would allow 250 students a year that would search a large number of students that they had to resort to the lottery system. What exactly would be the lottery? So we have 400 students want to attend, and we're only going to select for this first year 250 students. Well, we'll do just like at the bingo game. We'll put them all in the hopper and we'll wind it all up. And then you're number 47. That's number 1. Number 49, that's number 2. That's what I mean by the lottery. They ended up with 25 students. Excuse me, not 25 students, 250 students to attend this school. Now, there was criteria for these students attending schools. You had to have perfect attendance. You had to have a high grade point average, no referrals to the office, certainly no fighting. So therefore, the teachers was the one that would allow the students to attend because they would be the one to make the referral. So therefore, those low achieving students didn't have an opportunity at all. Now, I thought that public education was established that all children would have an opportunity to have quality education. But once we started creating these private schools inside of public schools, that did away with that. Then they waited a few more years, and then they waited till they got another superintendent, and then they had another meeting. There goes the deal cutting again. Now we're going to create a private school inside a public school, but it's going to be in middle schools. Therefore, the students who are coming out of elementary school, who will be attending a program called the GEMS, G-E-M-S. GEMS program was one that they pulled the students out during the course of the day and made sure they got extra help. Therefore, you'll start your child out in GEMS from 1st grade to 5th grade. Then in 6th grade, they have an opportunity to go to this private school inside a public school. That school was created in my hometown. They called it an academy. Therefore, the same lottery kicked in. 250 students, teachers have to be the one to pick. The criteria was the same, high grade point average, attitude and behaviors, high attitude and behavior. Then you have to make sure there was no referrals to the office, but the teacher would make the selection. Now think about the students who were struggling. Do you believe that the teacher recommended them for the school? I don't think so. Therefore, now take a look at this. We got from elementary school, you go on to the 5th grade. From there, you are flying high. You are now in the academy, which is nothing but a public school inside, a private school inside of public education. Then, therefore, we moved on to a high school where we attended another academy, and from there to Harvard, Yale, to the best schools in the universe. That is what I mean by private schools inside of public schools. While the private schools had all the resources, I'm there every day, and I see classrooms where there's not enough books, dilapidated computers, no resources, small amount of resources in this class. Students disenchanted, dysfunction, disengaged. Teachers not wanting to come every day and teach them. While I'm there every day, if you read my book, Enough is Enough, you will see where $850,000 was spent in my hometown for subs. Where did that money come from? They're saying we don't know where all the money's coming from. They can find money when the teachers want to stay at home and they want to employ subs to come in. When we as sub come in, most of the time, the teachers don't leave any work. We just wing it. Just babysitting, what I call it. But I don't want you to think that we don't have effective teachers in our public schools. I've met some of the best teachers in public school. Some of our most effective teachers are there. But private schools and the private school inside the public school, they're draining our best teachers. They're pulling away from the students who need the most effective teachers, the most teachers that will teach them, care about them. We got to do something, ladies and gentlemen. While this public school, accepting our private school inside it, it's draining our system. It's hurting our kids. Our kids are, well, what is going to look like years from now if we don't stop, make sure that the deal cutting and the backroom negotiation is cut out, that every student has a chance to the best education. It bothers me that organization, our churches, what are we doing? What are we doing to make sure that we stop the hemorrhaging, stop this tsunami in public education? I want you in our future session to join with me and let's talk about things that we can do to stop the tsunami from tearing up our public education system. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been my pleasure this week serving as your host of Straight Talk in room 503. If you haven't had an opportunity to pick up a copy of my book, please do so. Amazon.com, Kindle. Also, you can pick it up at Brooks' Barnes in Madison County. And you can also go to my website, www.morrismerriweather.com. There you can buy a copy as well. If you have comments that you would like to leave with me, you may go to askmorrisnow@gmail.com and leave your comments. Or you can leave them on my Facebook page. Till we see you again in room 503, this has been your host, Morris Merriweather. Thank you for joining me today.